Yeah, I can kind of take a step back, tell the story and kind of how we got to where we are today, and then sort of where we're headed, which I think is pretty interesting too.
Cool.
So yeah, like I've owned agencies and consulting businesses for a long time. I got into this world probably in like 2012, 2013, something like that. Have made all the mistakes in the book,
Yep.
basically, over the years. And I sort of reached this point, like, I guess it was almost 2 years ago now. It'll be 2 years this fall or winter, where I kind of like reached a bit of a breaking point. I was very tired of like how my past agency was being run, more from like I felt like I was always on that hamster wheel. You know what I mean? Which is such a common thing that agency and service people face. I felt that I knew so much about like building kind of like a funnel and an offer ladder and like using kind of direct response marketing and things like that to grow those. But I always had that cobbler shoe fallacy thing happening.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Where I never figured
100%.
a good way to apply it to growing my own business. So I've known like Greg Eisenberg since probably, yeah, 2011 or something like that. So we got connected a long time ago, before he became Twitter famous or whatever you want to say. And he would always send me referrals to my agency and stuff like that, people he knew. And he started building late checkout, and he kind of wanted to go more in like, holding company sort of direction. And we were chatting and I was like, man, I'm pretty tired of a lot of these things I'm facing. He's like, cool, well, we want to figure out ways to grow. Like, is there a way we can partner up and, launch kind of a new like agency together? So my prior agency was in the ads space, like basically a performance marketing agency. And I was like, man, I've seen a lot of SEO agencies sort of like solve some of these challenges. I think the offer might be a little bit different than the ads offer. So kind of deconstructed that, thought through it, and we are like, let's try something different. Let's start a SEO agency. And it happens that around the same time there's a lot going on with like AI, generative AI and everything, which had a lot of very good SEO use cases. And if you think back to maybe like last year, like if you talked about AI on Twitter, you would get tons of followers and it made audience
Oh
growth
yeah, for
very
sure.
accelerated, right? So we kind of like timed that almost unintentionally at first. And then, having Greg's distribution really helped us to start growing our audience and things like that. So yeah, we started with just like thinking about audience growth. So started there. And then, basically I started having meetings and conversations with people that entered into that audience. I put up like a type form. I just reached out to everyone individually. And I don't know, like I would have months where I'd have over 100 calls with founders, marketers, for many months, sales calls, demo calls, learning, just digging deep. So, I think that even if you are experienced in a certain field, like still having those touch points and those like conversations like can open up your eyes a little bit. So we saw a gap kind of in how SEO agencies were working. A lot of them weren't figuring out how to like utilize AI efficiently. Another way is that like people felt that SEO agencies weren't very transparent and all that. So we developed an offer called our Sprint, which was kind of this entry point for us to uh, get paid to do a really good job at auditing and figure things out. And also, no one's going to come to your website and sign up for like a $6,000 a month like retainer out of the gate. So I wanted a way that people could kind of like have a lower risk try before they buy experience, and then we could convert them into a retainer after the sprint. Design agencies do it, dev agencies do it. Figure,
Yeah.
okay, why couldn't we do it for SEO? So anyways, the first month we launched a sprint, we did like 40,000 in sprint revenue, or whatever. And we were like, oh, we're onto something here. That's pretty cool. So, we started to like focus on, all right, how do we sell more sprints? Well, let's figure out more effective ways to kind of funnel our social following into our funnel, for lack of better terms. So yeah, we launched a newsletter. We created a like an email course kind of about how we were trying to think and about SEO and how to implement it. And that did pretty well too. And that's sort of what we did. And where we're at today is like now, we're leaning further into productizing the agency. So we're building basically kind of an internal SaaS that helps us execute our sprints uh, almost automated. So like right now it takes like a month for us to pull this project together in terms of a sprint. I'm thinking, how do we condense that down to 2 hours? Through AI, automation, APIs, things
That's
like that,
awesome.
code. So I think that's gonna help us be way more efficient, take on more sprints. Oftentimes growth is just simply a volume game. So get more volume in the mix, sell more sprints, have more at bats to convert them to retainers. And then it also helps dial our USP. Like we really will have a powerful differentiator versus other agencies when we have our own kind of tech that we can really show people and lean into this whole like AI assisted kind of agency vibe, right? So that's kind of how we are scaling this agency vertically, but we're also scaling horizontally because we're launching boringads.com, which is kind of a total refresh of all my experience launching and managing what a performance marketing agency is, taking all the learnings from what we've had with boring marketing and taking, a totally fresh approach into our ads business, right? So
That's cool. Yeah, I think I
yeah,
saw something. I didn't know that was connected. It makes sense.
yeah,
I'm a huge fan of the Ad Professor.
yeah, he's great. Yeah,
So
very
he does some really good stuff, but he also does has a great like similar funnel to you guys, newsletters. He just
yeah.
leverages, all the great ads, which everyone loves to see anyways. Maybe I don't know if you guys are gonna kind of leverage something similar, but it's a great
Mhm.
model too.
Yep, good model for sure. Yeah, we've got a tech layer that we're building kind of out of the gate for boring ads, which is really interesting. But yeah, I think it'll follow kind of a similar path. But yeah, I think we can replicate our model multiple times for different sort of agency type services.
Do you think like for the boring ads approach, you guys are gonna leverage something similar to what you're doing with boring marketing with, is
Yeah,
it like an ads audit, and then
sort of.
into like a retainer kind of thing where you have that entry level offer?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Essentially, that's it. Yeah. We're building like a big data set of like winning ads and things of that nature. We've got hundreds of thousands of like winning ads that we've already collected, and we're using AI to analyze them and identify patterns and things like that. So basically, what we can do is do an AI driven audit of a creative strategy that would, have a high degree of likelihood of succeeding for your brand. The challenge with ads is, creative is expensive. It's hard to figure out. The workflow is clunky. You need to feed the machine, like Facebook, for example, with
Yep.
lots of creative. So, the creative workflow is one of the big kind of points of failure because when it comes to managing performance ads, Facebook's gotten extremely good at doing that for you. You tell it what you want to optimize for, how you want to pay, for results, if it's kind of like a target CPA, or if you just want them to go and maximize the volume of conversions. And then, really what's left is you can go and try to optimize, for creative, like for now. Eventually that will also change. But yeah, I'm kind of thinking like, hey, let's fix a creative workflow. Let's be able to deliver a powerful audit using AI. That'll be a much faster sprint as well. And then we'll sell retainers from there.
I love it. Well, I definitely want to stay connected and see what you build there, which is really cool. Yeah, on the boring marketing side, I'd love to double click into a couple things that were interesting that I noted. One was if we go top of funnel for your on your social accounts, you kind of have this like this cool brand behind boring marketing, and it's kind of a faceless, account.
Yeah.
Maybe walk me through talking behind some of the decision making there and
Yeah.
why you decided that instead of putting it behind, let's just say your Twitter account, etc.
Yeah, on the social side, like a lot of that was like Greg's thinking. Um, and I figured, hey, like he knows how to grow a social following on Twitter, so I'm just gonna listen to what he says. You know what I mean? So he's like, hey, what if we have this kind of anonymous like character type of guy? And that was around the time where you saw a lot of these guy accounts, like the secret CFO or car dealership guy or
Yeah.
whatever. And Greg kind of noticed this pattern that these accounts were able to accrue a pretty good size following in a specific niche quickly because the character has this like industry insider vibe that drives a little bit of curiosity. It's a little bit mysterious and things like that, you know? So that's kind of why we did it. Was we figured, hey, this could be a good way to sort of like develop a personality. Um, you know, like no one wants to follow just like a brand account from like an agency or whatever.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're
and then
boring, they suck. Yeah, it's yeah.
yeah, like they're not, we wanted like to be a very creator kind of forward brand. And we figured, hey, like this is working in these other industries. It might drive some curiosity. And then we figured there's a lot of other cool ways we can kind of like use this character or whatever. So yeah, that's why we did it. And it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think you see similar stuff that, yeah, Ad Professor to, there's
Yeah.
another account I follow on Twitter, which I like. It's not really marketing focused. It's called Carnivore Aurelius.
Oh
If
yeah.
you've
Yeah.
seen him, he's great. He's got
Yep.
so much, some good stuff as well. But again, faceless account. And it
Yep.
kind of plays into your guys' favor, I think, down the road with like building like a more valuable brand. It's not dependent on you or Greg really. Even if
Exactly.
people know you guys are connected, it's like you have a much more sellable
That's right.
brand with like a Facebook or a faceless account, which is pretty cool.
100%.
Um, I don't know how like how much you guys share numbers, etc. But I was more curious, cool, like because so much of like what I'm looking at and like trying to share with people is like the power of leveraging social. You guys do a great job of just sharing really great content, pushing that into the newsletter. How many newsletter subs do you guys drive monthly if you want to
Yeah.
share, or how big of like a top of funnel like play is
Yep.
that for you guys? Are you guys also running ads, or is it mainly kind of organic?
Right. Yeah. So I've been digging into this lately to try to figure out how we can optimize and grow faster. What I realize is there's not an easy entry point to our newsletter right now, like which is kind of just being self-reflective here. If you get our email course, which is linked in our Twitter bio, or like come to our website, we have kind of like a giveaway kind of pop up or whatever. But we don't really have like a dedicated newsletter landing page right now, and we're not advertising that. We've advertised our lead magnets and then people get those and then they're kind of dripped into our newsletter afterwards.
Yep,
But we're trying to revamp this to make our newsletter very much more like kind of forward and have more entry points for people to come in there. So even with just like our not optimized way of getting subscribers, I think we probably get about 1,000 subscribers a month, just totally organically, no ads,
that's pretty awesome.
yeah, anything like that. And yeah, right now I think we probably have around 13,000 13,000 subscribers or something along those lines. We've done some ads before to our lead magnets.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've got probably like $2.50, subs there, which is
Yeah,
pretty decent.
that's great. Yeah. Even on, yeah, with our Beehive ad network, I think if you're anywhere like $1 to $3 a sub. But what's
Yeah.
cool with you guys, I don't know if you guys have run the math, like how valuable that is, because it's like you guys are nurturing and turning those subs into multi-thousand-dollar clients,
Yeah, like
So
for example, with our email course, like I think our email course, we directly attributed like, I don't know, well over $200,000 in revenue just to our 5-day email course.
yeah, that's awesome.
People
Yeah.
that came through there and then, bought our services after going through it. So yeah, how do we, kind of scale that up? Well, let's drive more into the funnel, let people maybe kind of choose their own journey a little bit. I think there's ways we can kind of work on that overall experience and make it better and drive more volume. But yeah, it works for sure.
Yeah, well, it's cool when you break it down. I think it's like I also see like how people are monetizing. Most people monetize through sponsorships, which you have to have a huge volume of subscribers to actually make, you know, decent amount of money, but nothing near what you just mentioned. And it's so much cheaper to acquire an email sub than to try to get a retainer client or even a call or demo.
Yep.
So you guys can just, I mean, I think there's a whole this arbitrage of just, acquiring email subs. And
Yeah.
if you have the right funnel, like you said, email course to pushing them to this audit to then,
Yep.
converting them into retainer clients,
Yeah.
it's
I
just
think
kind
our
of
software,
surprising people don't do it enough.
yeah. And I think like the software that will allow sprints to be done faster, cheaper, and more efficiently is just going to open that up even wider too, because, like, I don't know, $3,000 is still like, you know, It's not just like a purchase where I'm like, okay, like I signed up, that was a good drip campaign. I'm gonna buy that, you know? So like even having more of an entry point uh above that sprint in terms of price point to kind of
Yeah.
generate a customer. Some people call it like a tripwire or something like
Yep.
that. So thinking how we can have a lower cost thing to kind of generate quicker payback, because there still is sometimes a length of time between like getting an email sub or a lead magnet download and selling that sprint. So
Yeah.
shortening the payback period through lower cost tripwires and stuff that are way more product driven, not manual at all, is something that I've been thinking a lot about.
Yeah. I felt when I looked at your funnel, I was like, I thought what could kill for you guys is like even just like a good one-to-many like workshop that's even paid,
Yep.
that you guys could run monthly. Just because I think that you get a pretty good list, pretty substantial uh, amount of purchases, and that then could, obviously upgrade into the audit. So that
Good point.
seemed like I've seen that work really well with a lot of other service businesses.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah, I just took a note of that. I'll have to explore it a little bit.
But yeah, so you're mainly driving at people that it looks like email courses or your email course, and then your lead magnets, and maybe opening up some more doors for just subscriber base as well. You guys are using Beehive as well, right?
Actually, we're not.
I forgot what you guys were on. I thought you guys were on Beehive. Are you guys using ConvertKit?
I'm using Active Campaign.
Oh, Active Campaign. Maybe that's why I didn't see.
Yes.
Um,
The reason why uh, is because I want our newsletter and our lead magnets and stuff to have a much tighter kind of integration into like our CRM, you know?
okay, okay. Yeah, makes sense.
So Active Campaign was really like beyond outside of HubSpot. I like there aren't that many options that's kind of like,
Yep,
connecting the dots all the way through to like our retainer
yep,
package and how we track that and stuff. And I wanted very good attribution from where we got a sub to how they're
of
moving.
course. Yeah,
So I wanted to figure out how do we do that without having to stitch together multiple things. And HubSpot to me is just like it's expensive. Like if you want to get the high level packages, you could be paying $3,000 or $4,000 a month
yeah,
uh, for HubSpot. So
yeah. We,
active,
we use it at Beehive too, and I questioned it all the time. It just seems like way over, very
yeah,
expensive, and
yeah,
but we're kind of integrated now. But okay, cool. Yeah, Active Campaign. I've used Active Campaign a lot in the past. Works well. Their CRM feature is actually pretty solid. You
yeah,
can manage your whole pipeline there, and then
yep,
obviously then have all your triggered messages. So
that's right.
um, yeah, Beehive definitely can't do that. So
Not
yeah,
yet. When you
yeah,
do,
exactly.
I'll happily switch.
Yeah, no, I don't know if we're going to go in the CRM
Right.
realm, but that's a valid reason to kind of have everything integrated there.
Yeah.
Cool. How many, like, I mean, yeah, you guys are driving quite a bit of subs. I was curious, like, wor like moving down the funnel, if we're kind of talking in that direction as well, like, how many audits you guys typically sell a month?
Yeah.
And then I'm really curious, like, how those convert into retainers,
Yep.
because it's like such a great lead in there.
Sure. So I'd say in a typical month, we're doing probably 10 to 15 of these sprints a month. Um, we're probably having, well, yeah, 10 to 15. So not everyone that books a call is like a good fit for a sprint and all of that. So
Yeah,
we try to, qualify and take on companies that we think we can have like a good impact for as well. Our goal with a sprint, ultimately, yes, we do want to sell a retainer,
yeah,
so we have to kind of make sure it's a little bit aligned there. But so yeah, 10 to 15 sprints a month at $3,000 a piece. And then we convert, I would say, uh, about a third of sprints into a retainer, which ranges anywhere from, on the low end, 5 or 6 thousand a month or so, to the high end, like 10 to 12,000 a month.
cool. Yeah. No, when I talked to your team before, I want to try it out for Beehive next quarter. We already have kind of all of our keywords and stuff for this, but like we're doing so much volume, we almost needed a sprint every quarter,
Oh yeah,
to kind of, because I think your sprint kind of outlines a year kind of plan of action. Is that right?
It does. It is flexible in that sense. Like each quarter, we do kind of come in and make sure that the right content plan is in line and we're going after the right
Yep.
keywords and things like that. But yeah, generally it's sort of pretty forward looking. But yeah, I think that it could be a little bit more iterative in that sense, for sure. Um, so yeah, but yeah, like if I were a service business, I would definitely like you need that entry level offer. Like if you
Yeah.
don't, like, you're just totally missing out, like 100%.
Yeah, I think like one of the things I try to help people with is like people work so hard to try to turn just leads into clients. And like a
Yeah.
one shift I try to make is just think of it as like leads to customers first,
Yes.
then so like that's where the product and like I tell them to like usually do like cool, sell like a workshop or some sort of like one-time ask like offer that's a little bit less that then you could sell into in some cases done with you or done for you offers.
Yeah.
So
Taking the like like I think what people don't really see is that this is like a proven business model in the information marketing world.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like that's where I learned all of this is by studying like Dan Kennedy and
Yeah.
all these guys back in the day and going through their funnels and looking at their offers. And then, Ryan Dice is a great example of somebody who knows this system very well. Like digitalmarketing.com had so many of
Yeah.
these and stuff like that. And yeah, like I think agency, like B2B generally needs to feel and think way more like direct response marketers,
For
whether
sure.
new version of direct response marketers. Yeah, you still have the core sellers and stuff, but like I think DTC has really learned a lot from that world as well with the direct response landing pages and ads and copy and things of that nature. But man, like B2B and agencies are just ripe for that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Some people do
100%.
it, but
Yeah.
most are totally blind to it.
No, it amazes me. It makes so much sense like for us who have been kind of in that world and now it's like I'm seeing like even like all these B2B companies that have newsletters, on Beehive, thousands and thousands of them and just everyone's just trying to you know, just sell their thing just immediately, without just a few simple tweaks to their model.
Yeah, I know. And
Uh,
I think too, like agencies specifically are so focused on where's that next client going to come from. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Where sometimes if you just say, hey, like, I have 1,000 subscribers today, like let's get to 5,000 subscribers. Like I bet you will get more clients.
100%. Yeah,
I mean, so like
yeah,
sometimes the answer is pretty obvious, but for whatever reason that doesn't connect to a
yeah.
lot of people.
Well, I have a couple of final questions. I know we're kind of at time, but just really quick on kind of cool. You 10 to 15 sprints a month. How many of those like do you see on average actually converting into retainers? Because that's really the only place you sell the retainer. You have to kind of do a sprint first, and then if they're a good fit, I'm assuming, and they,
Yeah.
want to move forward, what does that look like?
Yeah, roughly a third of the sprints that we do turn into
Oh,
retainers.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
And then my last question, which kind of like refers to you partnering with Greg, just because I think like that's actually a very like brilliant strategic move. And you see this happening with like Hunter Hammonds, if you've seen
Yep.
some of his stuff as well, where he's kind of partnering with like almost B2B influencers in the same respect
Yep.
as you did with Greg. Like how much of a driver is that just as a growth strategy is like finding an influential partner who can drive and like push traffic your way.
Huge.
Um, yeah,
It's huge. It's massive,
yeah,
like um I think that in I mean for a lot of businesses like distribution is like
yeah,
one of the key
the big
challenges, right?
thing. Yeah,
How do I get customer? You can have the best, you can have a good product, but if you don't know how you're going to get customers, then you're going to struggle. And just take an agency for example. Like if you don't have distribution figured out, you're never going to get off that hamster wheel of relying on referrals, relying on word of mouth, like not knowing where that lead is going to come from or whatever. So to me, when we started this company, like, you know, and of course, Greg is super smart with distribution and growth. So, you know, teaming up with Greg helped to solve that distribution problem. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, hey, if you have plenty of leads, like, then what do you focus on? What does that look like? Well, then you focus on your offers and your brand and your operations and all these other things. And I think that that is just such a big, like, kind of like problem that
Yeah.
becomes solved initially, that, you know, you get a lot of cash flow and clients, and you can move on other stuff faster, and it solves that cold start problem of where am I going to get a customer from or whatever. I think that, but that said, like, I never want to be 100% reliant on like one channel as like an agency owner, right? That's the same. If I were only relying on Greg for customers, I would be the same as like the person that is ultimately only reliant on referrals, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So like, in my view, like these creator partnerships for like agencies specifically, like getting into the weeds here, I think they're great at getting you to this level as like your sole channel. And yes, you will still get leads and still get things and stuff like that, but there becomes a point where to build sustainability into your business model, you have to be thinking outside of that partnership, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
launch inbound, launch ads, like that's one channel. It could always be your best channel, but like don't be totally reliant on any one channel. You know what I mean? So we have like an internal metric that we track of like, hey, how many of our leads are coming from Greg? How many of our leads are coming from our growth team? You know, and we
Oh,
want to
that's
make
cool.
sure that we have a strong balance of every lead that we get every month. We're going out there and we're pushing and doing our things internally too to make sure we're driving that customer acquisition, you know?
Yeah. Well, the cold start problem is a big thing because like that allowed you to focus on sounds like your strengths of operations, building out the funnel, etc. And it set you guys up for
Yeah.
kind of adding these other channels as well. Any advice on like because I think the one question I'll get is like, well, how the heck do I find a B2B influential partner like a Greg, you
Yeah.
know? Because those are and like how do you structure like, ownership and equity with a partner like that, you know?
Yeah.
So that's always interesting and as much as
Yeah.
you want to share, I know we're kind of at time, but
No, yeah, like um, I don't want to make it seem like okay, anyone can just go and like get a Greg, you know, that he's like an extreme edge case, right? Like
yeah, yeah,
for me, that looked like 10 to 12 years of hard work, you know? Like I met Greg when I was building an app, a startup back in the day through a mutual connection. And we've had a friendship and a relationship for many, many years. You know what I mean? So I think like, and I would help his friends. Like he would send me his friends with apps and products and companies, and I would help them grow. And Greg knows that we have like I
yeah.
know
It's a
Greg,
long-term relationship, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
mutual relationship. I know he's got quality folks that are in his world and orbit, and he knows that I'm gonna treat him well and do a good job, you know? So there's this trust that has been built there over a very long period of time. Um, so I would say that. But you know, that said, like you don't need someone the size of like let's say Greg's audience to help you solve that 0 to 1 problem or as a great distribution channel, you know. I think like what's underexplored, I think everyone wants to go find the Greg or the Sahil or the Sampar or something like that. What's underexplored are, man, there's a lot of like influencers or people with audiences and highly targeted niches, right? Greg and these other folks' or audiences are so big that you know, like you're finding your ICP in there sometimes like, you know, they just got a bunch of people that may not be a good fit for you, you know? So I think ways that you can work that is like find influencers that are super, super, super kind of targeted. And it doesn't matter how many followers they have. It's like, are those relevant to what I'm doing and who I want to get in front of? And then maybe you could find multiple too. Like think of it more of like how an e-com company would go and build those influencer relationships and evaluate the audiences and things like that. If you know, that could be a route for somebody to go down. I think that
Yeah.
I think that in terms of structure, um, you know, that depends on like what both parties are trying to get out of the relationship, you know? Like I think like Greg and I are very aligned in terms of like the future and the vision for like this business and how we want to build it. And Greg and I talk like almost every day, like, and we're working on this together, and he adds a ton of value just outside of like his audience, you know? Um, so I think of us more like, you know, partners, business partners here and stuff, versus kind of like an influencer partnership or something, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for sure.
Feel like we're in this together, and, you know, we both own equity in this business, and we're both incentivized to go and make it a success. So yeah, like I think I don't know how other people are structuring it, but um, I think how Greg and I have done it has worked out well, like for us, and I think we're both really motivated to grow this thing. Some people do
Man,
rev share. Like I saw a tweet, Greg shared a tweet with me actually. It was kind of an interesting prompt or thought starter. This guy named John Rush, I think is his name. He's kind of like indiepreneur, builds software and stuff like that. And he was thinking on Twitter, on X, how to partner with other like micro SaaS entrepreneurs. And his thought was like he would bring cash to the table, like and get 5% of revenue, or something along those lines. So you know, maybe there's like smaller, more nimble kind of like ways to partner that are kind of rev share and less in the weeds and stuff. I don't know if that aligns the incentives the right way, but
yeah, yeah. And it's interesting. I think that's probably every deal is going to be a little bit different, you know. So it's
yeah,
like rev share to equity to that's always interesting though, and I think um with the bigger picture, just the B2B kind of the partnership and the influential kind of strategic aspect like that you and Greg have, I think is like
and think
you
about
can do
like
that on all sorts of levels, right? Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that if you take that approach and you have that creator that you've partnered with or whatever, like it opens up a lot more ways to kind of leverage their skill set, knowledge, strategies, or whatever than just like writing a tweet or putting you in their newsletter. You know what I mean? Like, if you do build that into kind of your like DNA, so to speak, from starting an agency, for example, like, hey, maybe you can work with them and they can develop some shorts for, you know, LinkedIn, or you could use those as ad creatives or whatever. I think it helps to give you those different ways to go out there and acquire like leads and customers, you know?
100%. Well, cool, man. This was great. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna